This is Moving the Chains. Here are your hosts, Jim Miller and Pat Kerwin.
The Power Hour of Moving the Chains, Sirius XM NFL Radio. Jim and Pat, we've got you for 57 more minutes. With that said, as promised, we're going to go out to the guest line, kick off the Power Hour with our former NFL offensive line coach. You can follow him on Twitter at Coach Paul Alex, and he just got back from Europe. He was running some clinics last week over in Berlin, in Frankfurt. Paul, thanks for joining us this week. We'll get to the Baltimore game, but what'd you like, what you saw in Europe?
You know, thank you. Yeah, I had a great time. There's this guy over there. His name's Brandon Collier, and he spends his life searching Europe, looking for kids who can play American football. And he has 100 kids playing Division I football right now from Europe, and it keeps growing all the time. And he invited me over there to do a clinic with them, and God, it was fun. You know, I probably saw 6 kids that were Division I athletes. There's 2 kids that could play at any school in the country. You know, they're just sensational.
And these kids travel, Paul. From what I experienced in Poland, I assume it was not just directed at Germany. I believe probably players were there from all across Europe that probably came to the clinic.
Yeah, there were. There was. Let me see. We had Germany, Denmark, Serbia, Netherlands, the UK, Poland. They were from all over the place. And these kids really want it. They want an opportunity to do it. When you think about it, they got 740 million people in Europe, and we got 330 million in the U.S., more than twice the population in Europe. So chances are, in their northern-type climates, that that's where you get big guys from. So I hope it continues to grow and that those kids get an opportunity.
Yeah, it's really quite interesting. We're always searching for big guys, and it's amazing. I don't like to say this, but apparently the numbers are out that less kids are playing in our country for all kinds of reasons. But when you're over there, how much time is spent on people raising their hand asking about concussions and things that are going on that end of it? Are they getting that kind of information? Are they using it to make their decisions to come here or not?
I didn't hear that. And this much I know. When I was working with these kids, and same thing last year when I was over in Germany working with kids and the team, those kids practiced the way our kids did 20 years ago. Hard, like they wanted it. There wasn't a lot of concern with injury. There was guys who wanted to do something, and guys who wanted to achieve because they know the odds are against them, and they're not going to just get an opportunity unless they really give it their all.
Yeah, they want to work, they listen, and they apply it. I'll tell you that because, like you said, Coach, they want it. They want to learn the game. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Paul, the last thing on those kids, the traits, physical traits, let's just use the 6 kids that have D1 talent and maybe 3 of them you say NFL talent. Give me some physical credentials. Are we talking about all these guys are 6'5", 6'6"? Are they all 300 pounds? Where are they?
Of the 6 kids I mentioned, the shortest one's 6'4", and they've all got long arms and they're all 290 pounds or more. And honestly, there were 3 of them, 2 in particular, that if they were over there, they would be rivals 5-star recruits. Everyone in the country, and those kids don't have a scholarship offer yet. I know this. If I was a longtime college coach, and if I was one, I'd be going over there to get me a few.
Well, the matchup of the week, Baltimore versus Buffalo, certainly San Francisco, New Orleans turned it into be a high-scoring affair. But, man, Buffalo's defense, we kind of teased this a couple of weeks ago that Sean McDermott would have a plan. Baltimore was averaging over 200 yards rushing, and here Buffalo holds them to 118. What are things that you noticed about how they stymied the Baltimore Ravens rushing offense?
I'm intrigued with Baltimore. I watch them every week. I think Greg Roman does an unbelievably great job skiing. He's ahead of the game. He's doing things that others aren't. We've talked, for several weeks about some of the things that they do on offense. And I feel the same with Buffalo's defense. They're excellent on defense, and we're looking forward to that. The first thing they did is coverage-wise, they played almost the whole game in quarter half. And Jim, why don't you explain that to the listeners?
We called it quarter, half. And for the listeners out there, one side of the field they're playing cover 2, so it's half normally to the short side. Not that there is a short side in the NFL. It's not like college where you got a boundary, but they're playing cover 2 to one side, and the safeties to the other side in the corner will play a quarter of the field. Meaning the front side safety will play a quarter of the field, and the corner to that wide, normally it's the wide side. Like, again, it's pretty even in the NFL. They'll play a quarter coverage, and then the backer will have really the flat. The areas of weakness are the flats in a quarter, half coverage, and it'll be to the one side where there is quarters being played.
Yeah. So what they're able to do on that quarter side, usually to the tight end flanker side in the pro set, that safety, he's like down, and they're playing him like 6 yards, like a step deeper than the linebackers. And their corners, Buffalo does the greatest job of anyone that I've seen this year, that when your receiver goes in to block that safety, that corner is right off his butt ready to make the tackle. I mean, they have courage, and that's important. So they were able to number up Buffalo in almost everything they did. All right. Okay. Well, that was good. And that's not the first time they'd seen it. So that wasn't that revolutionary. But what they did do that they have not seen, Baltimore has done a unique thing with motion. Everyone, when they line up a receiver to a side, right, he blocks a safety. Well, Baltimore, we talked about this earlier in the year, Baltimore takes their receiver and lines up on the backside of the formation. And when the ball's snapped, he runs all the way over to the other side and he blocks the safety. And that's weird because they'll have their other safety back away from the play. So they gain an extra blocker. They've been doing it all year. The ball's snapped, and they snap that ball, about in the tackle area to the opposite side. And no one can get their coverage over there quick enough because it doesn't happen until the ball's snapped. Well, what did they do? Well, defenses, okay. They're always afraid of that guy coming in motion, that short guy, and then going back out the other way or changing strength. So usually you never get a defense to adjust versus motion until that receiver is behind the center because you don't know what side he's going to be on when the ball's snapped, right? Well, Baltimore has been snapping the ball when that guy's all the way on the backside tackle before the defense can react. Well, Buffalo said, whoa, not so fast. We're going to adjust our defense away from it when that motion guy gets to the tackle area. So stay with me now. You got a receiver on the left. He's coming in motion short. He can be a tight end, one of their 3 tight ends. He can be a receiver, fullback. He's coming in motion short to the left. The ball's behind the tackle area. The second he got there, the linebackers were running the other way. The safety was inserting down, and by the time the ball was snapped and that receiver ran all the way from the left across the formation to lead the play to the right, Buffalo had more guys over there. So they were able to outnumber Baltimore, who all year has been outnumbering everybody else. Mm-hmm. Okay, now, why were they able to do that? Well, Baltimore never brings that guy in short motion, and on the snap, lead the receiver back the other way. I've watched them all year. They don't do it. All right? I would think maybe they're going to watch it. They're going to see what Buffalo did, and maybe they will do it coming up, But right now, to take advantage of that formation motion where they're gaining an extra guy and they've been stealing, and they were doing it last year too, where they're stealing to get an extra guy, Buffalo was able to recognize that and communicate and get their defense overloaded, anticipating that was going to happen. It was brilliant.
Do you think, you're really talking about a chess match now, and you suggested that Baltimore might have to learn an adjustment based on what Buffalo did? Because you and I, both, all three of us know, everyone's going to follow the blueprint. If you can slow down the scoring and the rushing, et cetera, of Baltimore. So what is the next step if you were Baltimore? And are they generally catching up to them between San Francisco and Buffalo? Have they started to show? Because I've talked to a couple guys about it. They just, their principles are, don't play any man. Everybody faces Lamar. Make sure you have multiple ways to set the edge. And, of course, don't stick your nose inside. And then have some blitz pressures to go with it. Do you think guys are getting closer to a plan, or is this offense going to survive as a dominator for at least a year, maybe two?
Well, until it's stopped.
Are they getting closer to that?
Well, they were getting close, because I've seen this motion since I've been studying last year, and I kept waiting for somebody to do this, and Buffalo was first, so people are going to copy this. But Baltimore's answer, obviously, is going to be to send them in short motion from the left. And instead of leading them to the right and running to the play to the right, they'll bring them in short motion to the left, stop them at the tackle area, and then lead back out to the left. Because if you froze that film right when the ball was snapped and that receiver is still behind the backside tackle, and you counted the number of jerseys by Buffalo, they were all over on the other side. They were gap short the other way. All right, so... that's going to be one way, but I think Baltimore will end up seeing that. I don't know. I'm not in their huddle, but if they see it and they'll adjust, they're smart, and then they can even it back up again.
Well, you wanted to talk about one specific play, and that was the victory formation. The first half, Baltimore 10, Buffalo 7, 1st and 10. They're at the minus 25 seconds on the clock. Take us through that call and really the trickery of Baltimore on that play.
How about that? But Baltimore, you got to watch every play, because they're going to do something. They're beautiful. They get out there, they're going to do a run and kneel down, go into halftime with a lead, like you said. But what do? They got the two running backs. They got Ricard up in the left A gap. They got Hill up in the right A gap. They got the receiver deep. The quarterback's going to take the snap. He's going to kneel. They're going to get out of dodge. What's he do? Well, Jackson takes a snap. He sprints to the right, and on his way to his right, he hands it to Hill. And and Hill becomes the backside guard on the old Fumble-Rooski play. The whole offense, they sit there and they count 1,001, and then they all go to the left. And then I'm not kidding you, they're on the 25-yard line, and they were like one block away from going the distance on the play on a fake quarterback sneak formation. And I wanted to stand up and clap when I watched that one. That was beautiful.
Do you feel like
the other thing they were doing, and this goes back to when you do talk about Pat, are they starting to feel it a little bit or defense? Well, here was I'm sure an adjustment that you'll remember, Pat, back when we were running the wishbone days, that they were cat and mousing the guy. When they're running their reads with the quarterback and the halfback, whoever was on the end of the line, whether it was a defensive end or the tight end side was a safety or a corner, if they had a wing, they're always reading that outside guy, whether to give it or Jackson to run. Well, they went down, the defensive end or the outside guy, he would cat and mouse, meaning he would start to close down and at the last second jump upfield, and a couple of times, Jackson, he closed down and they'd start to pull it, and the guy jumped upfield and trapped him. He got him. Or they did it the other way. They'd jump up the field, right? And it would look like he's flying up the field, but he would actually stunt down back to the inside late, and he'd be handing off and making the tackle. So then what did Baltimore do? And Jackson made an unbelievable play. It was on his longest run. He did like a double fake.
Yeah.
Jackson went and he rode him, and then he stepped up, and then he ran around. And the defensive end almost blew his knee out. But then the very next time they did it, Shaq Lawson, he did a double fake on Jackson. Right? Yeah. He came up, he came down, Jackson faked, he faked, and then Lawson jumped upfield and turned Jackson back, and it was like, holy hell, this is beautiful. It was a lot of fun to watch.
Well, Paul, quickly, because we don't have a lot of time, we're gonna go through your sack leaders. We'll save what each does individually next week, but you've got your final sack leaders.
Okay,
you got Shaq Barrett, 16 sacks, TJ Watt, 15 sacks, Cameron Jordan, 15 sacks. The last one that intrigues me is Daniil Hunter of Minnesota. He's got 15 sacks. Coach, he's the fastest or the youngest player ever to 50 sacks in his career. I think he's 25 years old, and he's already got 50 sacks. But out of all those, and we'll have you break each down next week, who is the toughest to block from your point of view?
Oh, I think they're all different. I think all four of them. I don't know who's going to win the crown. They're kind of like tied, although Barrett's up one on them. That's a lot of sacks. And the thing I want to talk next week is how you have to treat each four completely different.
Okay.
How you just don't say, okay, here's your pass blocking, you go pass block that guy. No, you have to block each one of these four guys completely different. Otherwise, they'll kill you.
Okay, we'll save that for next week, and you'll take us through each one. So always appreciate, glad you enjoyed your travels over to Europe, and glad to have you back, Coach. We'll talk to you next week.
Great.
Call me when you go to the North Pole looking for linemen. I want to know.
Former NFL offensive line coach Paul Alexander.